was the scene. I think everybody recognizes this video. It was a very disturbing scene at a church service in Minnesota on January the 18th as protesters came in. They were unhappy because the pastor at this church also is in a capacity as an ICE official in part of his work. And you see that the members of the community just standing and praying while people were yelling and preventing them from having the service there. So today, they all five of those who are in the courthouse today, they pled not guilty to plotting an anti-ICE protest in the Minnesota church last month, storming the service with children who were attending the service. You see this man screaming at the bottom of your screen. If we can drop that lower third, you can get a sense of what he was live streaming as it was happening. Watch.
You like ICE? You support ICE?
You are a fake pastor. You are a fake Christian. ICE out. ICE out. ICE out. ICE out. ICE out.
So Don Lemon is among the suspects who are in the court who've been charged in this case. Very dramatic in terms of his entrance. He was on social media saying, yeah, I'm heading back to Minneapolis for some business. Former CNN anchor says he was only there to cover the protest as a journalist. But was he? Is that the capacity he was there in? Correspondent Brooke Taylor reporting live from Minneapolis. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Martha. All five defendants pleading not guilty today at the federal courthouse, a judge giving them standard release conditions. Meanwhile, the former CNN anchor Don Lemon, he was first to see that judge. We learned that his phone was confiscated during this, and his attorneys argued for it back. But prosecutors say that his phone right now, it's in the custody of DHS. They say they have a search warrant, and that search process is just not complete. Now, all five defendants are charged with federal civil rights crimes, accused of conspiring to interfere with the rights of worshipers. Last month, the group of anti-ICE agitators stormed a church in St. Paul, disrupting services because one of the pastors works for ICE.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
And churchgoers say that there were children there terrified by the agitators who stormed in and were shouting at them.
There were several children that I noticed who started crying pretty much immediately because, it was just such a sudden and just loud, kind of like as if a firework had gone off and a child starts crying, not necessarily because they know what's happening, but because it's just so startling.
And after their court appearances, we just got this statement from the head pastor at the church. He shared, quote, "Peace was shattered. A group of agitators disrupted our service, accosted our members, and terrified our children. It was wrong and it was shameful," he said. Martha.
Okay, Brooke, thank you very much. With that, we bring in former Justice Department prosecutor Jim Trusty. Jim, always good to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining me today. So the bottom line here is, did these protesters break the law by entering this church? And Don Lemon says he was just there as a, observer of the press, as a journalist. But I want to quickly play this soundbite from him that day saying, you have to be willing to make people uncomfortable. Watch this.
You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortably and how harsh people are being treated on the streets, you have to be willing to go into places and disrupt and make people uncomfortable.
What's your take on that, Jim? Is that an unbiased observer?
Not exactly. And look, he used a key word, disrupt. Whether you're talking about the FACE Act, which is one of the counts of the indictment, or 18 U.S.C. U.S. Code 241, I think it is, which is essentially deprivation of civil rights. The magic phrase, the verbs that make it criminal are not just that you're there and you're quietly supportive, it's that you're intending to disrupt a constitutional right like the right to go to church. And so, look, I mean, he's kind of hiding behind the shield of journalism. And if it was true, if he was merely present, if the only thing he did was sit there and kind of sympathetically report it, he might have something, and maybe that's how it'll play out at trial. But the videos I've seen do not look like just a mere journalist. They don't look like he's just present. And, you heard from Brooke that they talk about a search warrant on his phone. If they have communications where he is organizing, promoting, setting this up, again, far cry from anything that you could claim to be just merely being a journalist. So I think you've got, pretty legitimate charges. And remember one thing, Martha, this is Minnesota, and it was only 5 months earlier that school children were literally shielding their little friends at the same school from gunfire in a church. Like, the idea that you're not going to intimidate and scare children at a mass, like on this particular event, or that you don't care because you're so self-righteous about disrupting and upsetting people, I don't think that's going to play well in the long run. I think people are going to realize contextually this was a horrible day for children in particular at a church.
Yeah. A journalist stands back and observes, and then maybe once outside of this service, asks people if they would like to answer questions about what happened inside. And the law itself has to do with physical obstruction or preventing someone from entering or exiting a place of worship. And we know that people said that they were blocked by the agitators as they tried to go downstairs and get their children who were downstairs. So just quickly, if you can, you think this is a strong case, Jim, against all of these people?
Well, you got to be careful before you assume that the charging document captures everything perfectly. I've learned that the hard way over the years.
Yeah.
But look, it's a case that has some beef to it. It's not something that reeks of politics or of an overreach or something desperate. And there's been times in recent years with the Department of Justice where you see things that seem inventive or that they're going out on a limb. I just don't think that's the case here. It looks to me like you've got people that decided they wanted to disrupt. The words they use fit the statute for disrupting civil rights at a criminal cause.
I mean, it's pretty clear once they walked in there that the service stopped. It was unable to proceed. So we'll watch this case. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Jim Trusty.